ISKCON founder Charya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Premanandi. All glories to the assembled of the All glories to the assembled of the All glories to the assembled of the All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Ganamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savalukam Vaijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Evam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyascha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vaishnava Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So we are here during the month of Kartik. One of the things that Srila Prabhupada said is that a devotee is always happy when he sees other devotees. And he or she, of course. And so we understand that I feel wonderful coming here and seeing all you devotees, and I hope you feel the same about seeing me. But no, I didn't. I wasn't asking for that. But Krishna and his devotees are just the most wonderful people on the planet. And that was one of the things that I got asked quite regularly when I was working at the hospital. Sometimes people would say, you know, what's the best thing about being a devotee, Hare Krishna? And I would say, I get to associate with the very best people on the planet. Yeah. Because really, everybody on the planet, besides devotees, has some selfish motive, right? Everybody wants to be better at this than somebody else, or better, you know, everybody wants to try to be on top of their game and, you know, making it all and getting all the money and the toys and everything before they die. You know, they think they're going to be able to keep it forever, but it doesn't last. And it doesn't satisfy. And yet, that's their motivation. They're going after all these things which cannot bring them any happiness whatsoever. I mean, there is absolutely no happiness in the material world. Prabhupada stated that on numerous occasions, because the happiness that is experienced in the material world is not true happiness. It's really just absence of discomfort. Because in the material world, we are spirit souls, and we're living in the material world. And so we're completely out of place. It's like a fish out of water. Prabhupada used that example quite often. It's a fish, we're like fishes out of water, and we can't, you know, we're flopping around trying to catch our breath and everything. And every once in a while, somehow or other, somebody douses us with a little bit of water so that, you know, as a fish, we can get a little bit of oxygen through our gills, like that. And it's like, oh, okay, great. Oh, that was wonderful. And then it's back to suffering again. And there is really no peace and happiness in the material world. And you can see that in these days when the world is actually sort of getting more and more adept at enjoying their senses, or trying to enjoy their senses, and figuring out so many different ways of taking care of the material energy by driving faster, or, you know, going higher, or, you know, going deeper, whatever, you know, going to all these extremes. Everybody, you know, there's extreme sports and extreme everything, and everybody is thinking, you know, the more you go to extremes, the happier you'll be. But that's because we actually, as spirit souls, have no limits. Srila Prabhupada said that we are eternal parts and parcels of Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. We are also unlimited. But we have sort of partial unlimitedness, which is kind of an interesting way of saying it. But it's just like if you have 1/10 of infinity, what is that? It's infinity also. So we have, you know, a very minute amount of that infinite nature of Krishna, but we're also infinite. And the problem is that in the material world, the people just don't realize that. And as devotees, we have an exceptional mission to help individuals come to that understanding that there really is no happiness in the material world. And oftentimes, it really just starts out with either chanting the holy name or giving them a little prasadam. When people taste prasadam, they really, it's totally different. Like, I can remember when we got the temple at 243 Avenue Road, one of the things that Prabhupada actually lent ISKCON Toronto from the BBT, and this was one of the first times that Prabhupada ever did that, was Prabhupada lent $250,000, I think it was, from the BBT to ISKCON Toronto. It was a big deal back then. The only other times he did that was for temples in India. But other than that, it was unheard of that any of the temples in the West. But Prabhupada really wanted that temple, and so he arranged that loan. But he said, you must pay it back in 1 year. And back in those days, I mean, we had this a temple that wasn't much bigger than this here before moving into Avenue Road. You know, the house on Gerrard Street, I don't know how many devotees have been to see the house at, what is it, 118 Gerrard Street West?
187.
187, that's it, 187 Gerrard Street West. And it's not a very big place. It's like a 3-story house, and didn't have a finished basement or anything. And it just had the temple room was smaller than this, because it was probably about half of this. and went back to about where those chairs were, and the altar was about here. You know, it was small. and we would cram in many devotees into that room, but obviously we had outgrown it. And so Srila Prabhupada was very anxious to get that temple at 243 Avenue Road, so he lent the temple the money, and we had to pay it back. Prabhupada said for that year, if you distribute some books, that's great, but it's all right if you just collect money to pay back the BBT, because it's money, it's BBT money, so that'll be also, in a sense, distributing books. So you can collect. And so we started collecting, and one of the things we started doing was giving out lollipops. And Prabhupada said we could actually offer those lollipops on the altar. And sometimes in the morning, on the altar in front of Radha Gopinath, there would be boxes of these lollipops from Allen's Candy Factory, I remember. And we had these big boxes of lollipops on the altar being offered, and some of them were even on the plates, like on Prabhupada's plate, on Gaura-Nitai's plate, on Radha Gopinath's plate, and on Jagannath Baladev's Radha's plate. We would unwrap some of them and put them on the plate, so those were like the Maha lollipops. And everybody would go out on Sankirtan every day, and we would be handing out lollipops and just collecting donations, and people would give whatever they gave, you know, and some people would give, you know, $1, sometimes just for a little lollipop, but a lot of times people were only giving, you know, 25 cents or something. But if we were handing out sometimes, you know, 300-400 lollipops in a day, like one person, 300-400 lollipops in a day, if you just got 25 cents from each person, that's like $100, you know, and sometimes it was more. So in that way, we were able to collect the money over the year, and we were able to pay back the BBT. But it was a little austere. But I know that every person that got a lollipop, when they tasted that lollipop, you know, I mean, not a lot of people would just walk away with a lollipop and you wouldn't hear anything more. But if they happened to unwrap it and they tasted it, I can remember sometimes people walking away going, wow, that's one of the best lollipops I've ever had. and you wonder, well, it's just an Allen's, you know, Candy Factory lollipop. But what's the difference? It's prasadam. It's offered to Krishna, and Krishna has enjoyed it, and so the sort of window to the spiritual sky has become open just by a lollipop. You know, we cannot really grasp the importance of somebody just tasting a prasadam lollipop, because they'll be hankering for that taste for the rest of their lives. I want that taste. That was one of the best tastes I've ever had. It was the best taste I ever had, and I want more. And people come back for prasadam. Prabhupada said all my devotees, they are here because of the prasadam. In the old days, we at the Sunday feasts, it used to be really opulent, the Sunday feasts. And I know it's difficult sometimes, and especially now, boy, it is in Toronto. We're getting, 500-600 people sometimes for the Sunday feast, and it's hard to cook a really opulent feast. But when we had the smaller numbers, sometimes they say small is beautiful, but when we had the smaller numbers, we were able to cook. We would have 2 sabjis, rice, and the rice was often very opulent, with nuts and, nice spices, and it was sometimes yellow rice, or sometimes even 2 rices, yellow rice and a white rice. And you'd have halava, and then you would have a laddu. So you'd have at least 2 sweets, and you almost always had pakoras and samosas in the same feast. And then you might have something like malpura. Does everybody know what malpura is? Yeah.
Malpura.
Yeah, malpura. And when it's well made, nowadays we use a lot of oil in the temples, but back then we only used ghee. And when you cook the dumplings in the ghee, the taste is just, oh. And then when you mix it with the yogurt and the strawberries and everything, that's one of my favorite sweets, as long as it's offered. You can tell I'm just a godas. But it was really fantastic in those days. And the feast was just, and the nectar was never just juice, like a little bit of mixed, frozen juices or mango pulp or something like that. No, it was always, we would start off with a bit of orange juice, and then we'd add some apple juice to it, and then we would blend strawberries and blend raspberries and blend blueberries and blend bananas and everything, and put a whole lot of yogurt in it, and it would end up being a really thick, it was like a smoothie. Everybody who came got a smoothie, and it was all, as much as you could drink. Like, we would make a big thing of smoothie every week. So even just the nectar was like, wow. and so it was a very opulent time, in a sense, that we were able to offer those things to Krishna. And our opulence, the real opulence of Krishna consciousness, is that taste for prasadam that opens the window to the spiritual sky, and the chanting of the holy name. When people hear the holy name, many of them, like even myself, first time, I think I've told you before, first time I heard the holy name, I didn't really think much of it. I just thought the devotees were crazy. But there was something must have stuck. Because I became more interested in spiritual life and trying to find out, and I was studying all kinds of other books, and I avoided the devotees. But it was definitely something that tweaked my spiritual interest, because it opened that window to the spiritual sky. And as soon as the spirit soul starts getting that chance to sort of, you open the window and you get that breath of fresh air. It's like the spirit soul has been going in the material world for so long, suffering in so many bodies, just unlimited suffering. And all of a sudden somebody goes, hey, I'm opening the window. And they go, wow, there's fresh air out there. There's actually unlimited happiness. Unlimited happiness. Not just this happiness in the material world that goes up and down and up and down, but unlimited happiness. Prabhupada said, unlimitedly you can be happy when you chant Hare Krishna. And that's real, true happiness, because it doesn't end. And in fact, it doesn't even, Prabhupada, in the Gita, Krishna says, of that which is eternal, there is no beginning or end. And of that which is temporary, there's a beginning and an end. So in the material world, happiness has a beginning and an end. But in the spiritual realm, and as soon as you start chanting Hare Krishna, there is no beginning to that, because actually our souls are just dormant now, but they are used to chanting Hare Krishna. They've chanted Hare Krishna before, they've been in the spiritual world before, they've been chanting Hare Krishna before, and they know that happiness. They've been there, but they've just completely forgotten. And so it's just a matter of reawakening that natural Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said in that purport of the Maha Mantra, he said, it is not an artificial imposition on the mind, but it actually springs naturally from the soul. And so we can bring people that realization. We can bring people that gift. And we do it by giving out books and prasadam and kirtan and all those things. And when a community really gets behind those activities, that's when the community really starts to, you know, grow and expand, and everybody's happy because everybody's on the same team doing the same work, and everybody's really functioning together because they know that's the goal, is just to try to help as many people as possible get that glimpse of the spiritual world. So that's why we engage in these activities, because it keeps us on track and it helps so many others to get on track. And it's such a wonderful time of year. We're now in the month of Damodarastika, and or Damodar, the month of Damodar. Damodarastika is the song. But we are now in the month of Damodar. And the pastime, and I saw that beautiful picture when I came in of Kubera and Nala Kubera, who had just been liberated by Lord Damodar, because he pulls the mortar that he was tied to. He pulls it between the two Arjun trees, and the Arjun trees were actually Nala Kubera and Manigriva, who had been trapped in those bodies for thousands of years. And Krishna liberates them by just pulling the mortar through and making the trees fall down. And so now that they're liberated, they're offering prayers to baby Krishna. You know, it's such a great picture, because when you realize how Krishna is, we all have some humility, but Krishna actually has more humility than everybody else. Right? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what does he do? He appears to Mother Jasoda as a baby, and she allows Mother Jasoda to even chastise him when he's not been a good boy. And of course we know that he had been stealing butter, and there's the other picture right there. He's stealing butter with Balaram, and they're enjoying the butter. And that's when, you know, all the gopis come to Mother Jasoda and say, your boy's been stealing butter again. and Mother Jasoda says, oh, what can I do? But then she goes and she confronts Krishna and Balaram. Have you been stealing butter? You know, he's the Supreme Lord, and he's like, me? No. I know you've been stealing butter, because all the other gopis are telling me that you've been stealing butter, and so you must, you know, pay a price for that. You must, because I don't want you to grow up to become a thief and a rascal. You need to grow up and become a good person. Even maybe she even said you have to grow up and become a good devotee. So Krishna was like, no. And so she gets out the rope, and all of a sudden Krishna realized, oh, this is not going to be good. And he starts running. And Mother Jasoda starts running after him, and you can see she even has a stick in her hand, and she's like chasing after him. And this is the Supreme Person, the absolute Supreme Lord, and he's running away from his devotee who's chasing him with a rope and a stick. It's just, you know, any other religion, they think, this is nuts. But we understand that actually this really shows how God relates to his devotees, and actually is, and as we say in the prayer, the Damodarastika prayer, that he is conquered by the love of his devotees. He's not interested in great yogis, you know, sitting, meditating, or Gyanis, you know, studying all the scriptures and everything. He doesn't care about any of that. All he cares about is you just abandon all those things and just become my devotee. And if we become pure devotees of Krishna, then we actually can, you know, control Krishna. Because if we give ourselves under Krishna's control, completely under Krishna's control, then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that as they surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. So if I've surrendered completely to Krishna's control, as Mother Jasoda did, and Nanda Maharaj, then they got complete control of Krishna. And so Mother Jasoda is running after with a stick, and that's how we understand that pastime. I mean, I know you all understand that. But it's just such a wonderfully glorious pastime to see the absolute humility and wonderful nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's so different and so much more complete understanding of who God is than is available in any other religion on the planet. There's no other religion that even comes close to that understanding. And so we had been made fortunate by Srila Prabhupada, and he's given us the opportunity to serve and to actually become devotees. And how fortunate are we? I'm so glad that all of you have taken the opportunity to come here today, because we are the most fortunate people on the planet. There is nobody more fortunate than the devotees. And I mean, I'm not just saying we here, but of course there's many congregations of devotees all over that are meeting right now and speaking about Krishna. And so it's just such a wonderful opportunity. That's pretty much the only way you can say it. It's just a wonderful opportunity. And so often in life we have opportunities and we let them go by. And we regret that I let that opportunity go by. You know, it's like somebody came and said, oh, I have a great investment for you, you know, and if you put your money in now, like, I mean, I think it's a really bad, I don't agree with cryptocurrency at all. I think it's a completely made up currency. So, I mean, how can it have any value? It's like craziness. But, you know, if in the beginning you had gotten in, you might end up with a lot of money. But we don't do those kind of speculative things. But for most materialists, they think, oh, I missed that opportunity. You know, I could have put in $1 and now it'd be worth $60,000. But what can you do? But the opportunity of devotional service only comes along once in a very, very, very long time. In fact, the Srila Prabhupada gave the example that if there was a log floating in the ocean and it had a hole through it, just about that big, and you were a turtle in the oceans, and just imagine how vast the oceans are, right? And so there was one log and one turtle all over this whole planet, right? What are the chances that that one turtle, when he comes up for air, is going to come up through that hole in that one log? Because that one log could be in the Atlantic Ocean, the turtle's in the Pacific Ocean, and I mean, and of course all the currents are mixing things up. But what are the chances that the turtle is going to come up through that one? I mean, you could actually figure out the chances, because you could figure out the space, you know, the area of the head of the turtle and the area of the circle, and figure out how that relates to the entirety of the surface area of all the water on the planet. But it would be, I mean, the chances of that happening are infinitesimally small. So now that we have this opportunity to become devotees, and it's such a small investment, you know, like it's not even $1. Krishna doesn't need our money. So it's not money that Krishna wants. I mean, it's good to have money so that we can have a center like this and we can all come together and everything, that's fine. But what Krishna doesn't care about your money. What Krishna wants is your love. He wants your love. He doesn't want anything else. He just wants you to love him. And I mean, how can you not love, Krishna, the little baby that was tied to the mortar in that picture, and Krishna stealing the butter. And that's one of my favorite pictures over there too, is Krishna on the banks of the Jamuna with all the cowherd boys, and Krishna and Balaram running, in front of the cowherd boys. It's such a wonderfully, it just looks like everybody is so free and happy, It's just like, and that's just, wow, so antithetical to what is going on in the material world, And so we have an opportunity to join in those pastimes. Isn't that incredible? Really incredible. And what does it take? It just takes a little surrender of our time and our energy to give to Krishna and chant his holy name. That's it. It begins with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Sakyam, and ending with Atmanivedanam. I kind of forgot the last two before that. But Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. It's so simple. And yet, it's one of the things that a devotee just posted something the other day in one little chat group that my wife's on, is, when will we chant even one name with pure love for Krishna? That should be our goal. Because when we chant even one name with pure love for Krishna, that's when Krishna will actually reveal himself to us. In so many different ways, he'll reveal himself to us and actually make us transcend this material world and be living in the spiritual world. Because that's what it takes to live in the spiritual world, is always having that pure love for the holy name, who is non-different from Krishna. It's not the holy name, it is. We don't use the word it when referring to the holy name. He is the holy name. And by that sound vibration, and Lord Chaitanya says, Trinadapi Sumichena Tamori Vasihishna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And our true selves, our spirit souls, who we really are, because right now we're covered by these bodies and minds and intelligence, all these material coverings. But our true self is constantly chanting the holy name. And we've just got to try to shed all this outward covering. And we do that just by developing love for Krishna. If we develop true love for Krishna, then all those material things will go away. And how do we do it, Lord Chaitanya says? It's by developing that true humility. And we have to become so humble, more humble than the blade of grass, so that we, even if people step on us, offend us, whatever, it's all right. It doesn't matter. There was one time, I remember we were chanting Hare Krishna at the corner of Yonge and Dundas. This was many years ago. And I had actually forgotten about this incident, but I was reminded of it by a devotee named Kurmarupa. I don't know how many people went to Vrindavan and actually met Kurmarupa. when he was still on this planet. He's a godbrother of mine, but he left, had got cancer. But he was the one who set up Care for Cows in Vrindavan. He was the head of Care for Cows. And he was in the Toronto Temple for a while. And in fact, there's a painting in the Toronto Temple. You know, when you go up the stairs to Srila Prabhupada's room, when you go up the stairs, if you were turned around right at the top of the landing and look, there's a priest offering a pot of kheer to Madhavendra Puri. And that priest, the painter, actually copied Kurmarupa's. So if you see that, you can kind of see what Kurmarupa used to look like, because he's the one offering the pot. He was really a really nice devotee. And anyway, he reminded me that one time we were all together chanting Hare Krishna on the corner of Yonge and Dundas. And somebody in the crowd threw an apple, and it hit me in the face. And I stopped chanting, and everybody stopped chanting. And people in the audience were sort of like, and I just said, just see, there are some people who don't like the chanting of the names of God, but we will go on chanting anyway. And then I started chanting again. And he just, I mean, I'm not sort of at all trying to glorify myself, but this is just the way in which, I mean, I try to be humble. I don't know if I'm really that humble, but somehow or other Krishna inspired me that day to be a little humble. And I just started chanting again, and everybody in the audience was like, yeah. You know? And the guy, everybody looked at the guy who threw the apple, and he just kind of, you could almost see him melt, because he just realized, whoa, I did a really bad thing. And it wasn't, you know, we didn't have to chase after him or beat him up or anything like that. It was just like a little bit of humility, and he immediately became. I just wish I had been able to go and say, no, come on back and chant with us. That would have been the right thing to do. So now I missed that opportunity. Anyway, that is part of being as humble as one possibly can, and as being as lower than a blade of grass. Prabhupada said that when you step on a blade of grass and you lift your foot, then the blade of grass sort of starts to come back up again. But if you're lower than a blade of grass, you get stepped on, you just stay down. And so that is true humility. And humility combined with that effort of chanting the holy name and taking Krishna prasadam and serving the devotees. I mean, if we are actually being humble, then we should serve the devotees, right? In whatever we do, we should try to be always making sure that the devotees are happy. It's just like Srila Prabhupada was the leader of ISKCON, right? Prabhupada made sure that every devotee in ISKCON was absolutely happy. And if there's something not, if somebody's not happy, Prabhupada was ready to answer any letter or any inquiry that they may have sent to him. Like I always felt, I never wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada. I just felt, oh, he's busy enough. I don't have to bother him with my problems. But any devotees who did write a letter to Srila Prabhupada always got a response. And Prabhupada always gave the perfect response. So to be a leader in ISKCON, we should be trying to be Srila Prabhupada's representative. So we need to be that kind of a person, and actually we are all leaders. I mean, you may be sitting there thinking, and even the kids who are here today may be thinking, I'm not a leader, I'm just a kid. I'm just here to take prasadam and have fun and dance and chant, right? But actually every one of us will someday be a leader in some fashion, in some way. And we should never think that I'm a leader and that I now have some position and I have some control over people like that, and I can utilize this control for my sense gratification. No, I have to see that their satisfaction is my first priority, that all the devotees are happy and satisfied. And if the devotees are happy and satisfied, then I can be happy. But if there's even one devotee who's not happy and satisfied, then I have to figure out, how can I help that devotee become happy and satisfied? That's the way we should be looking around us and just thinking, how can I serve you? I had one godbrother on the GBC deputies, Jagga Jivan Prabhu, and he joined ISKCON a few years before I did, about 3, 4, or 5 years before I did. And he had at one time been a sannyasi, but he kind of left the sannyas ashram and ended up getting married. But he was really just a really nice, sweet, humble devotee, always made everybody laugh. He always felt good in his presence. And one of the things that he always said when he would walk up to people, he would say, "How may I swerve you?" You know, he would always make that joke, like, you know, I'm just a nonsense, so how can I help swerve you off the path? But actually, he was a wonderful devotee, and he was definitely interested in serving the devotees, but he would just make a joke out of it even. And that increased the happiness of, you know, whenever you met Jagga Jivan, it was like, "May I swerve you." So it's something that is essential in leadership, in that we make sure that we are always pleasing all the devotees and all of the time. Like, you hear that expression that you can only please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Actually, you can please all of the devotees all of the time if you are really Krishna conscious. And I honestly believe that we all have the ability, the potency to become that Krishna conscious. And so there will come a time when all of us will be asked to become leaders, temple presidents, or vice presidents, or council members, or even gurus. And what happens when we get that asked to have that responsibility? We should accept the responsibility as a service. It's not a position. Like, when you get to be a temple president, it's not a position of being temple president. Now I'm temple president. No, it's no, now I've got the service of temple president. And that means I am the servant of everybody else. And Srila Prabhupada felt that all the time. He often felt that I am the servant of all of you. And he even told his disciples that in a lecture. I believe it was on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disappearance day in Los Angeles in 1970 or 71. There's a really nice lecture where Prabhupada talks about how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has sent all of you to help me spread Krishna consciousness, but I am your servant. And he actually talks like that. So Prabhupada was Krishna. I spoke about Krishna being humble to his devotee, Prabhupada being humble to his devotees. We have to be humble to all the devotees. Even if we get some so-called position, we have to actually accept it with a true sense of humility and just really make sure that we are interested in the happiness of everybody else at the expense of our happiness. So that means that if you have to get up in the middle of the night to go and help somebody who's in a crisis, then you do that because you're the humble servant. If you have to, you know, whatever service you may have to do for somebody, you know, to help them in a difficult situation, you put yourself out there. You're ready to do that. It's not just, oh, now I get to order everybody around because I'm a temple president or something. It's not like that. It's we all have to be the absolute servant of everybody else. And then that's how we can actually, Krishna notices when somebody is trying to serve all of his devotees like that, and Krishna notices and says, now that's somebody that I want back in the spiritual world. Because this person is just interested in helping everybody else serve. And that's the mood in the spiritual sky. Everybody is helping everybody else to serve. All the gopis, they're helping Radharani to serve Krishna, and Krishna is helping all the gopis to serve Krishna. Like that, it's completely reciprocal. So that should be our mood constantly. How am I helping the devotees to serve Krishna? How am I being part of this solution? Rather than being part of the problem, we can be part of the solution by helping everybody come to the point of serving Krishna. So that should be our real mood. So, we've got, I don't know, what time is the arti? At 12 o'clock. So we've got a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments? We've got this opportunity. Ask away. even anything that you want to know about ISKCON management, even, or GBC stuff. I mean, I know a fair amount of stuff. I don't know everything, but since I kind of work at that level sometimes, and some devotees may be wondering, well, what goes on? Like that. Oh.
Yes, actually, even Srila Prabhupada said, like, if you are envy of others and even you don't want that in the spiritual world, and you will disturb Krishna and other people around too. So, and also when Krishna was in, with the Kurukshetra war time, he was with Arjuna, the Raupati, and Krishna and Satyabhama. They were together, and Krishna told the doorkeeper not to allow anyone inside. But then Sanjaya came. He said, the doorkeeper went and asked Krishna, "Can I let him in?" Then he said, "Yes, you can let him in, because he's." Then after he left, Arjuna said, "How come you told him not to let anyone inside? But how did Sanjaya come in? How did you let him in?" Then he said, "He's never envious of anyone. He's such a good person, well-wisher." So that's why if others come and see this, they will be so envious. So that's why I told him not to let anyone in.
Yeah, nice story. Thank you. Did everybody hear that?
No.
Oh, okay. She was just mentioning about how if anybody's envious of somebody else, then there will be a disturbance especially in the spiritual world, but even amongst devotees. We try to not be envious. That's kind of how I started my talk today, about how in the people in the material world, all they want is everything for themselves, and so they're envious of what everybody else has. But devotees are not like that. But if nobody's allowed into the spiritual world if they have any envy, because it'll just be a disturbance, right? And then she gave the example of Sanjaya in Kurukshetra, when Krishna was having a meeting with Arjuna and who else?
Draupadi and Krishna was with
Draupadi and Krishna.
And then Satyabhama was there together in the same room,
and they wouldn't let anybody in. Don't let anybody in. And then Sanjaya came to the door, and he told the doorkeeper, just tell Krishna it's Sanjaya. And so the doorkeeper goes in. Sanjaya wants to, come and see you. And so he says, "Oh yes, let him in." And so the doorkeeper lets him in, and then Arjuna asks,
after he left, how come?
After Sanjaya talked to Krishna for a bit, and then he left. How come you told the doorkeeper don't let anybody in, and then you let Sanjaya in? And his answer was, because he is absolutely not envious of anyone, and so he would not be a disturbance. Yeah. So it's a wonderful story.
How do we foster cooperation? Because devotees come into Krishna consciousness through different means, and oftentimes, it's not the same as like a small Hare Krishna movement where everyone's trained.
Right. Often it really boils down to understanding that I may not know everything. A lot of times in the material world, as we kind of advance in our job or whatever, we start to think, well, I know everything about this company or about this organization, and so I deserve to be, working my way up through the, vice president and vice president, and then I deserve to be president, like that, And but that's because they think they know everything about what's going on. But no one can know everything, only Krishna knows everything. And especially amongst the group of devotees, everybody is trying to serve Krishna. And so sometimes devotees are thinking, I know how to serve Krishna, and the way you're saying is not how to serve Krishna. But Krishna actually accepts the service of a lot of different personalities in a lot of different ways. I mean, even Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and all the demons, they were serving Krishna in the sense that without them, there's, they contribute to Krishna's greatness when Krishna defeats the demons. Because in the material realm, they become like Hiranyakashipu. He was the supremely powerful person in the entire universe. More powerful than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, everybody. He assumed all power. And yet Krishna came and annihilated him easily. And so it just shows how great Krishna is. So that's a service also. And it was actually, we know that they were actually the devotees, Jai and Vijay, the gatekeepers. So we do not know everything about how to serve Krishna. We should just accept that, yeah, there may be this way of serving Krishna and that way of serving Krishna. And as long as we cooperate for the goal of helping others to become Krishna conscious, then that's great. As soon as we start to fight, then there's no room. Because if we're fighting and we just bring somebody else into that fighting mass, then it's just going to make more fighting, right? It's going to be two's company, fighting company, and then it's going to be 3 fighting company and 4 fighting company. It's going to be a bigger problem, right? So what we want is we want to make sure that if we just work together, yeah, I may not like the way you do something, but that's okay. And we just we have to swallow our pride and just say, I know nothing, and I shouldn't really. And it really, the only reason that I'm able to even sit here and tell you about it is because I've been asked to. But otherwise, if I'm dealing with any one of you and you had an opinion about service or something, unless it was really off the wall, I'd probably be okay with it. And because we've got to accept that there are different ways and different understandings. Now, and so, there's the one thing that has recently come up at the GBC level about female Diksha Gurus. And I think that the GBC actually did come to a very good level of understanding, was that we'll have some parts of the world where they accept that women can be female Diksha Gurus, and some parts where others, can say, no, we don't want female Diksha Gurus. And that's okay. That is unity and diversity. That's actually really showing the cooperation that Prabhupada wanted to show. Not that it has to be everything for everybody. It's like we can have diversity, but still have the unity of pushing on Prabhupada's movement. And so there are some personalities who feel that, yeah, that it's not according to Shastra or something. But you know what? I've challenged a few, and I've actually said, where in Shastra does it say that women cannot be guru? Does it say that anywhere? And no one's been able to show me. So even though they say, oh, well, a woman is lower, and a woman is this, and a woman is that, but what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? We're all spirit souls. We're not men, we're not women, we're spirit souls. That immediately brings the understanding of Krishna consciousness down to a material level, at least in my understanding, but I'm willing to let them, if there's a majority in that area that want to do like that, then I'm willing to cooperate. They can have their, area where they don't have female Bhikshugurus, and we can have our area where we have female Bhikshugurus, and together we can print and distribute Prabhupada's books and help people to come into Krishna consciousness and help people, get that taste for going back home, back to Godhead, right? So it's just that unity and diversity that we really have to go after. Because Prabhupada said, as soon as we don't have the unity, we may be many sticks, and if we stay separated, then they're easily broken. That's an Aesop fable from old Greek times, I think it was. But if the sticks are all put together and bound up, you can't break it. So we have to remain bound up together and not break. And we have to make, so unity in diversity, and Prabhupada did use that phrase. And there's a really wonderful letter. If anybody has access to Srila Prabhupada's letters, you can actually look it up online. October 18th, 1973. It's a famous letter about unity and diversity. It's a letter to Kirtanananda. Because Prabhupada wrote a few letters every day, but this one is a letter to Kirtanananda on October 18th, 1973. And if you look it up and you read about unity and diversity, you can really see how Prabhupada had a very broad vision and how we all have to remain and work together. Prabhupada said, if we fight on account of diversity, then it is simply the material platform. That is a direct quote, because I've read that letter many times. If we fight on account of diversity, then it is simply the material platform. Yeah, so dangerous. Because we don't want to be on the material platform. So we don't want to fight. We want to work together. Even if we have really opposite views on something, there's still so many other ways in which we can work together. And that's where the movement is going to go. There's been some discussion, and it'll probably end up that there will be areas of the world where no female Bhikshugurus, and some with female Bhikshugurus, and everybody can go where they're happy. And that way Prabhupada's movement will go on. He's building a house in which the whole world can live. And that means that we have to have unity and diversity, because the whole world can't live in a house where we don't have unity and diversity. Okay, I guess we'll stop there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Oh Nashima on the Bahula Ashtami day, which is last Thursday, so he will be relieved from all his sinful reaction. Right? So he become very pure, and they will also get, whoever get this water as a Charnamrit, little bit even, it will be like they will get a Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Prem, because Radharani is most merciful rather than even Krishna. So when Radharani is merciful to us, Krishna is most merciful to us. So we are going to circulate, I am going to do the Aarti of Radhakund, and you everyone thinking all the way that we are in Vrindavan and doing parikrama of Radhakund and Shyamkund. And you will get the same benefit. Right? So thank you so much. So please stand up and we will proceed that way.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parapradikacharya Sudhasita Shishimad Abhay Charananda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada
Ki Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Kunda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Ki Jai. Lord Premanande.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga.